Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for all being present here, and I would like to formally welcome us all to the maiden session of the Policy Roundtable. Topic: Surviving the Fiscal Flu, Unearthing Economic Possibilities in the Advent of the Coronavirus Pandemic. Thank you all for being here, and I hope you all are sitting very comfortably, because in a few moments it's going to get interesting, educative, fascinating, and I'm sure you enjoy yourselves. All right, without further ado, I would like us to go right into the event and take the national anthem, please. Let's rise for the national anthem. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I'm excited to be a citizen, and excited, and it's also conflicting. And I share the same view of legendary Chinua Achebe, that said being in Nigeria is abysmally frustrating and unbelievably exciting. I don't know what better way to say for better or for worse, but I share his view. All right, and going straight to it. Amongst us today are very important persons. We all are important, definitely. We're all looking good, feeling and smelling important. But very particular persons here that I would like us to get known, to be introduced to. And one of such persons is in the person of Mr. Emeka Orjih. He's our guest speaker for today. He is an economist, a consultant, he's a columnist, and the founder and strategist of Nest One Hub, this very beautiful facility that you are in. I don't know if we've had the opportunity to go around. If not, you will be graced with such opportunity very soon, because I have had, and it's exciting. So yes, he's here today, and he's our special guest. And we have more persons who will introduce them to us. All right. Before today, we had a vox pop. We had undergone a vox pop, and then we went out to the street to talk to people, to get to know their views, what they think, what is itching them, what's up with the, if you are a Nigerian, what is paining you as a Nigerian. All right, so we went out, we got to hear, we got to know, and we made a documentary of that, which we'll be sharing with us in right about now, okay? Right about now. And yes, I would like us to just sit back and enjoy and listen.
In Nigeria, everybody has an idea on the way the country should be run.
Number one problem of this country is leadership.
In the minds of these individuals, those ideas which are stoically grounded in the depths of their subconscious are the only pathway to the liberation of the country.
One of the problems we get for this country, one are tribalism. Without that tribalism, this country could move forward. And the only way where this country fit move forward, that when we remove that tribalism and religious sentiment.
These divergent opinions are sometimes brewed from the ingestion of negative clickbait articles, while some are found on a more accurate, well-researched fact and data.
Everywhere they will say there's this money from here and there. I will not see the money.
You know, in other countries, they pay school fees for They even pay people for like 18 years old and above. They pay them whether they are working or not. They are sure of salary from their government.
We're supposed to be high 17 naira per liter because we are the one producing it.
We might not want to ask as a people that ask a country, what then is the real challenge facing us?
That time we said, and the rest. I will tell you what to do, and that truth is that the foundation they laid down, it is what we are following up to today. It never changed.
What is that albatross that has continually befallen us in the 60 years of our resistance?
They create law, but they don't implement it. So many people go into crime knowing fully that at the end of the day I will still be free, that there will be no law to take its course on.
How do we harmonize these differences in the opinions of individuals to formulate good policies that will aid in delivering good quality of life for all Nigerians?
Nobody wants to take the bull by the horn. Nobody is ready to take the bull by the horn. Of a truth, when you look from north to south, east to west, there are similar things that are happening. But when it is from my region, it is not a problem. When it is from another region, it's a problem. Until Nigeria come to see Nigeria as one, not regional, but as one country. Nigeria cannot be one.
The Policy Roundtable is a platform set up to interact and interface with policymakers, change agents, stakeholders, and interested Nigerians on matters of national importance. The need to have the right policies in place to fix these looming questions cannot be overemphasized. Hence, we enjoin you to join the conversation today.
For some of us that couldn't make it here for one reason or the other, we can always join because we are live on Instagram at the Policy Roundtable. So you could always tell your friends, those at home, those that would have wanted to be here, to just go live on Instagram and join us. For some slight correction, we have here now Miss Honorable Cornell Ajim. Mr. Emeka Orjih will be joining us soon enough. And also Honorable Cornell Ajim is currently an art curator. He was a one-time Commissioner of Culture and Tourism, Cross River State, and former Director, Licensing Department of Nigerian Film and Video Censors Board. Also joining us virtually will be Honorable Dennis Idahosa, Member, House of Representative, and Chairman, Committee of Legislative Compliance. Thank you. All right. So let's all be aware that for some of us that are not wearing our masks, nobody's going to die here today. We have here an air purifier. So yes, you, with or without your mask, you are, yes, thank you very much. You can breathe right now. You're very well covered. Thank you very much. Okay, so to the next here, we are going to be taking the welcome address, and this will be taken by the convener and team lead of the Policy Roundtable, no other person than Mr. Olubumi Samuel Ayotunji. Sir, the convener,
Good evening, everyone. Protocols. Honorable Dennis Idahosa was not or would not be able to join us. His flight was cancelled, not even shifted this morning. However, he's joining us virtually and he's in session with us right now, so I'll start with him. Distinguished Honorable Dennis Idahosa, the Chairman, House of Representatives Committee on legislative compliance, the Right Honorable Colonel Agim, the former Arts Commissioner for Arts and Culture of Cross River, and he was a lecturer, an art curator, and a filmmaker. He's he's an ardent believer of the Nigerian project, and he loves anything youth-oriented. He's present with us here, and joining us soon is Mr. Emeka Orjih, an economist, a consultant, and our host and speaker for the day, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. For 2 weeks now, precisely June 15th, I was actually thinking of how to write a welcome address, but I couldn't figure out one. So since the policy roundtable is not this typical platform, I'll just flow. And I've opted to regale you with my interview story. It's very short, I won't waste your time. So just like my friend Daniel, I work with a senator of the Federal Republic, and on the day I was to be interviewed, he asked a question, just one question, like, young man, what do you think is the problem of Nigeria? And just like every energetic young man, I started telling him, first of all, my first sentence was, the problem of Nigeria is your generation. You people are the best of the country, and you left nothing for us. Every job that has had to take before now was created by a member of my generation. He was listening. Then he overshadowed what I said with another. We went on with other questions. So when I was leaving, he said, young man, I'd like to work with you. Indirectly, you have the job. However, this question I asked you, I will ask you in 365 days from today. And ladies and gentlemen, I think I would answer differently if he asks me that question again. Because the knowledge I have been open to working with him has really changed my psyche. There is the last sentence of the University of Ibadan school anthem. It says, for a mind that knows is a mind that is free. I understand that. Every youth in this country has an innate hunger against the government. The government is not doing well, the government is stealing money, nobody is working, nothing is working. But as valid as our hunger is, I think some of them are really misplaced. I dare say, there are some things I would naturally curse, quote and unquote, government for that I won't do again, because I think I know better. So if my boss asks me the same question that I said now, I would say, I think the problem is the youths of my generation do not know the origin of the problem, and though we can fix it. You can't fix a problem that you do not know the root of. So now that I know, I will not accuse him of his generation eating everything. I think my generation we have this energy surge to insult anything government without actually, if I ask any of us here, how many of us have actually read the appropriation bill of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? We don't even know. The only thing we know is Buhari is this and all that. So the policy roundtable, for that reason, is a platform to educate and probably awash the ignorance, quote and unquote, please, in the mind of an average Nigerian youth. We started this project in April this year, and by God's grace, we have a team currently joining us virtually in Bradford and in Northumbria. Actually, we have a team of 4 other persons joining us from Germany right now. The policy roundtable did an essay competition last month, and it was titled, a national essay. We titled it, Halting the Upsurge of Future Pandemics, the Role of the Nigerian Government. Amazingly, we had about 135 entries from like 14 universities in Nigeria. And a young man named Alex Netufo, a medical student from the University of Ibadan, won the first prize. We have actually published his recommendations in the National Daily, and we have submitted his recommendations to the National Assembly. This and many more and what we intend to do on this platform. The speaker for today, I do not think I can adequately, and no flattery space, I do not think I can adequately explain his person or his personality to you. So I would rather leave that for when he speaks. You be the judge of that. But I can promise you that there's no other person that can actually demystify this topic than him. I'll say it again, that the Policy Roundtable the Policy Roundtable experience is an experience you will never regret, as you will never leave the same way you came. You know more about this country and the reason why we are where we are. I would say again that I believe firmly that a mind that knows is a mind that is free. Thank you very much and God bless you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for having the mind, the heart, and the spirit to start up this platform. And we pray that the grace that it deserves would back it up. Well, very soon we're going to be having the speech for today. He spoke about Mr. Emeka Orjih, and I am kind of getting antsy to want to hear. Before that, we're going to have to listen to the citation of Mr. Emeka Orjih. And to take the citation will be no other person than the program lead of the Policy Roundtable, Mr. Daniel Odigwe. Mr. Daniel, please.
Good evening, everyone. Well, I want to join every one of us that have come up this table to welcome us to the first edition of the Policy Roundtable with the theme Surviving the Flu, the Fiscal Flu, Unearthing Economic Possibilities in the Advent of the Coronavirus Pandemic. Right after now, we'll be having our speaker, Mr. Emeka Orjih, and I'm privileged to be able to read his citation. You know, like the speaker before me, Bumi, said, I don't think this does enough justice to the speaker, but when you're done hearing them, I'm sure you will have your own addition to it. So, Mr. Emeka Orjih is a strategist and a serial social entrepreneur whose career spans 13 countries on 3 continents. He has previously worked for the World Bank in Washington, D.C. and in Southeast Asia. For the US government, he has worked delivering social projects and SMEs in various countries of Africa, and also for the US government as well. Among the many projects he has delivered in Africa, he, in collaboration with MTN, created and helped 8,000 female-owned thriving enterprises across 34 of the 36 Nigerian states through the Phone Ladies project. The project won the GSMA award for the best use of GSM telephony in development in Davos, Switzerland in 2005. He was responsible for crafting Nigeria's e-agric and e-health framework. He also drew up the 10-year human capital development strategy for Abuja Technology Village. Formerly a venture capitalist, Mr. Emeka Orjih has worked as a strategy consultant and advisor to many organizations and nations, including the United Nations, Nigerian Communications Commission, Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, the Central Bank of Nigeria, the national governments of Rwanda and Liberia, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, BMS, Microsoft, and General Electric, to mention a few. A bird watcher, a nature enthusiast, a yoga practitioner, a marathoner, and an avid climber. He has even attempted to summit the Mount Everest, unsuccessfully thus far though. Mr. Emeka Orjih has studied biochemistry, economics, history, psychology, theology, design and arts in schools around the world, including the Sotheby's Institute of Arts. He holds an MBA in strategic management from the world's first business school, the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. Ladies and gentlemen, Please put your hands together as I welcome Mr. Emeka Orjih to the podium.
How many people here have been ever bitten by an elephant? Anyone? An elephant has bitten you before? Nobody? Let me ask another question. And you must have answers for this one. What is the world's deadliest animal? Anybody? Try. Yes, sir.
I think I will give a guess to a kind of a deadly fish called Priaya or something. Okay. We've seen in movies that
a fish.
Thought. Yes,
a fish. Any other thoughts? Yes, sir.
Mosquito.
Mosquito. Ma'am.
A tiger.
Tiger. World's deadliest animal, anyone? Yes, sir. Elephant.
Mosquito.
Sorry?
Lion.
Lion. Yes, sir.
Spot mosquito.
Mosquito.
Human being.
Human being. Eagle. Elephants kill roughly 500 people, maximum. Their death toll per year is about 500 people. Human beings kill. Now, what did you say?
Tiger.
Tiger. Human beings kill somewhere in the region of 600,000 people a year. Mosquitoes kill in the region of 1.2 million. The deadliest animal on earth. It's one of the smallest animals on earth. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the mosquito. So, you were right, sir, and you were right, sir. I start with this to communicate certain things. One of those things is that it is the little things in life that matter. It's not the elephant that kills you, it's the mosquito that kills you. If you sit back a second and think about that, you probably, I'm not sure you will, but you probably take a second look at the little things that you encounter every day in life. Today, I'll be talking about some of those little things. The little things that determine how life eventually turns out. There were two ways, I was going to approach this talk in one of two ways. I could have gone the very academic route, and so I would tell you that the world is currently in this space right now, and these are the threats, these are the opportunities, this is what we're facing. We're facing because of the pandemic, production is shutting down in China, we're having conscriptions in demand from Europe because of the shutdown, and so that's affecting the entire world economy, and the world economy is shutting down, and this is where the opportunities may lay. That's academic. I'm not sure that's what you want to hear. If you wanted to hear that, you'd be reading newspapers, you'd be reading Fortune magazine, you'd be reading Forbes or something. I'll take it from a different perspective. The perspective of personal, the perspective of small. Each and every one of us, every single person here goes through certain things in life. You wake up in the morning, you go to bed at night. Somewhere in between these two times, time T1 and time T2, somewhere in between these two times, you encounter millions, literally millions of opportunities to change your life. I will come to that in a second. I have 5 quotes that rule my life. I say they rule my life because I run almost everything I do by them. I'll let you know one today because that's what we're going to talk about. Never let a serious crisis go to waste. Never let a serious crisis go to waste. Is there anybody in doubt that the world is in a crisis today? Anybody? This is perhaps the worst crisis the world has faced in the last 1,000 years. Easily. It may not be real. That is, the level of the crisis may not be real. It may also be real. But it may just be a perception. And when perception jams reality, guess who wins? Anybody? When perception jams reality, guess who wins? Perception always wins. We are in a crisis. Planet Earth, all human beings, we are currently in a moment of crisis. And you should never let a serious crisis go to waste. So, question is, how do we take advantage of the current crisis in which we find ourselves? I'm going to make this a highly interactive session. I was supposed to speak for 17 minutes. I'm going to speak for the neighborhood of 10, and then we're going to interact for the rest of the 7. I know there's still a question and answer session after, but it will be very interactive. It will be back and forth between us. I think it's more productive that way, personally, for all of us. A few years ago, the most valuable company on earth would be a solid company, a Walmart, an ExxonMobil. You know, something that you can hold, something that you can grab. The most valuable companies on earth today, you can no longer hold them. They don't exist. The biggest hotel chain in the world has no hotel rooms. None. The biggest taxi company in the world does not own a single taxi. The biggest sports apparel company in the world has never manufactured a single shoe or a single shirt. What's going on? A company that started as a video club is about 2 times as valuable as the most valuable oil and gas company on earth. Oil and gas, crude oil. That thing they are all struggling to chop in Nigeria. A company that started as a video club. You know it as Netflix. Video club. Netflix is a video club. What's going on? Does anyone here feel woozy, like as if you're spinning? Anybody? Yes? No? Nobody. But you are spinning and you are moving at speeds that defy anything a car or a plane or even a rocket can move at. How come you're not feeling it? The earth is moving at speeds faster than planes and rockets move, but you're not feeling it. How come? It tells you something. It tells you that change can be happening around you. Change can be happening around you and you are not aware of it. You are traveling at an incredible speed now as we speak, but you are not aware you're moving. Change can be happening around you and you are not aware. The earth is shifting around you. The earth is shifting under you. The earth is moving, but you are not aware. You don't know it. And it's happening again. So we're going to talk about some of those earth shifts. We're going to talk about the shifts that enables the world's largest hotel company not to own a single hotel room. You call it Airbnb. We're going to talk about the shift that enables the world's largest taxi company not to own a single taxi vehicle. You call them Uber. We're going to talk about those shifts. We're going to talk about what those shifts mean to you personally and how you can tap into such underlying existing knowledge to prosper your own life and your own environment. Keep in mind, never let a serious crisis go to waste. I would love for someone to tell me what he or she understands by never let a serious crisis go to waste. Anybody? Yes, sir.
I think, yeah, my name is Cornell again. What I understand from what you have said is that a lot of times business thrive under crisis, under pressure. People capitalize on some people inadequacies and some people failures to be millionaires. It's just to look in the box, not outside this time. I guess I'm understood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody? Never let a serious crisis go to waste. What is your understanding?
Sorry, sir. My humble understanding about that is if there is a crisis, of course there is an expectation for a solution, and that solution actually should be what it should be, what everyone should look at to capitalize on. If you can only provide solution to that crisis or that problem, I think that's going to be a breakthrough. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Well, hello everyone. In my own understanding, I feel like after crises, we're not really talking about what's happening within the crisis, but what happens after it's over. I mean, worlds change after a crisis. Nothing stays the same after. We're still feeling the impacts of the world wars and the rest. So what you do during the crisis to position yourself is going to determine what happens to you after the crisis. So I think that's what I'm saying.
Thank you, ma'am.
Grant is the name. And I think there are opportunities that thrive under chaos. And of course, like you said, the world is going through chaos, the world is going through crisis. And every of those chaos, if you look properly, there are opportunities hovering around those kinds of chaos. So if you could tap or take advantage of those chaos, hey, you can.
So personally, I feel a crisis signifies a desire to change the status quo. Now, if there should be a change in the status quo, meaning something new is coming about, or something new should come about, or people desire something new, And when people desire something new, you can be a person understanding the desire of the people will know how to position himself to deliver that thing that they desire at the end of the crisis.
Thank you, sir.
Gabriel C. Eze. From my perspective, first of all, you understand that crisis basically is a situation that requires extraordinary efforts for solution. It's a very uncomfortable situation, and at that moment, it's only those who understand what it means to provide solutions to whatever crisis that is happening at a particular time that we ensure that their names are being registered. For instance, in every event, there must be either one or two heroes. And those heroes are actually those who understood what it means to offer solution to whatever problem the society is facing. Are we facing challenges in terms of transportation, in terms of communication? It is as a result of these issues that necessitated people's efforts to restore or to offer solutions to them. So if, as an individual, there is a crisis, you did not find a way to help out or to offer one or two things at the moment, then all of us becomes ordinary. But to be extraordinary, your name or what happens or what you did at that particular moment where it matters is what will make your name to stand the test of time. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Raphael. And from my own perspective, what I understand from what you've said, talking about crisis, I feel the crisis creates a seismic shift in global economics. I feel it's the betting place for innovation. And whatever I talk, I try as much as possible to take China as a template and look at how most of the global companies that we all admire today, how they came up. One perfect example I always have is Alibaba, for instance. Now these guys have probably been doing e-commerce 5 years, for a long time, like 5 years, and it wasn't going, the projections, they were not hitting their projections. But here comes SARS in 2004, and you found that the global economics of China shifted, where people could no longer come out of their houses. Now the demand for e-commerce skyrocketed. So I believe that a crisis is a betting place for innovation. Thank you.
Any other person? Thank you for your responses. You all brought great perspectives to the question, and we're all right. I would like to ask us another question. A fever. Everyone here has had a fever, right? And yes? A fever, you're sick when you have a fever, right? What if I told you that fever wasn't a sickness? What if I told you that fever is not a sickness? What if I told you that that which you consider discomfort, that which you consider sickness, that which you consider bad, is actually your body protecting you? The process of fevers happening is your body feels a threat. And it feels that the way to defend itself against that threat is to raise its temperature. It triggers itself. It It's a self-defense. It's a self-defense mechanism. Why do I raise this? Why I raise this is that a lot of the things that we consider bad, a lot of the things that we consider impossible, a lot of the things that we consider to be sick in our lives. And you have to have this particular mindset. Going back to those small things, remember, the biggest killer on earth is mosquito. That's the biggest, that's the deadliest animal. So when Discovery and the Animal Planet are doing those, and they say the 10 deadliest animals. If mosquito is not there, call them and tell them they're wrong. The deadliest animal on earth is mosquito. The second deadliest animal on earth is the human being, before lion and tiger and all those other characters come into play. The little things, it is the little things that will drive the outcomes that you desire or not desire. Any outcomes that you arrive at is the little things that drive it. It is how you look at things. Do you look at the fever like sickness? Do you look at the fever like trouble? Or do you look at the fever like, oh, my body can rise to the occasion? If your body does not deliver fever to you when it senses a threat, then your body is really sick. And there are people in that situation. There are many people in that situation. There are many people whose bodies, because of the way they have been degraded, their bodies can no longer deliver increased temperatures to ward off threats. They can't have fever. Or at least they can't have fever in response to a threat. Whenever, point number one, whenever you jam anything that resembles discomfort, anything that resembles a crisis, anything that resembles a tough spot, you are looking at an opportunity. That's what you're looking at. It's just dressed in the wrong clothes. Yeah, I don't know how many of you saw that WhatsApp video of Ronaldo the footballer. He padded himself, made himself fat. He wore beards, made himself look older, and he wore rags like a homeless guy. And he was on the streets jogging the football, like playing with the football. And nobody was giving him any time of the day. People were just passing, like look at him and pass. But it was the same skill set he was deploying. It was the same Ronaldo skill set. It was the same legs kicking those balls. And then he finally pulled his disguise. And everybody came rushing. The same people that were passing before, everybody came rushing. I wanted to take pictures with him. It's the same thing. The Ronaldos of this world come dressed. They come dressed like homeless people. The next time you encounter anything that resembles a crisis, anything that resembles a problem, you are face to face with a potential opportunity that could change the trajectory of your life, or that could change your current situation at that particular point in time, T1. How can this one that you're facing now change your situation? I'll tell you a bit about how it has changed mine. Perhaps you can look at your life and see how it might change yours. This is an innovation hub, Nest One. I founded it. Pre-COVID, we were doing what other innovation hubs do, trying our tech plays. We're going to do that tech company, we're going to do that tech startup, we're going to do that. And it's all good. And then COVID comes. Boom! Out of the blues. Like, where do you even start? How do you deal with this? And given that I follow international news. I've been following this. So while Nigeria shut down in April, I personally shut down in February. And I shut this place down in, I think, middle of March. But Nigeria shut down in April. I shut down 2 months before Nigeria. And I was watching everything. I'm like, okay, how do we deal with this crap? The last 3-4 months, again, because the small things, I took a certain view of the situation we were in. I took a certain view. I was standing somewhere looking at it. Somebody remind me where I stopped now. I'm going to segue and come back here for 1 minute. Just, I beg my brother, remind me where I stopped, okay? I was talking in a plane one day. Some guy sitting in front of me, elderly man, turned around, asked me, after about 20 minutes of me talking, he asked me, "Hey young man, can I ask what you do?" I told him, I sell pictures. I felt he was being rude, so I just told him, I sell pictures. Just to shush him off. And he laughs. And he goes, "What kind of pictures?" I said, "I sell images. I implant pictures in people's minds. That's what I do." He goes, "What do you really do?" I said, "Okay, I solve problems." I said, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "I solve problems for a living. That's what I do." And he goes to me, "What's the primary skill set?" And he thought he was being a wisecrack. "What's the primary skill set for being a problem solver?" I said, "The ability to change perspective at will." And I answered it without missing a heartbeat. I said, "The ability to change perspective at will." And he comes back to me and he says, "How does that work?" I say, "Okay, if you stand up in this plane now and you name your 10 biggest problems, there will be at least one person in this plane who, for each of those your problems, will tell you, I better sit down, maybe we'll get a problem, talk." I said, "There will be at least one person." I asked him, I said, "Do you know why?" He goes, "Tell me." I said, "Why is because there is nothing in itself that has the intrinsic nature of that thing you call problem. It doesn't exist. It really doesn't exist. You create problems when you situate yourself in a certain position and you're looking at a certain situation. It is your positioning that creates the illusion, the perception of problems. Remember, the first thing, when problems jam reality, what happens? When perception jams reality, what happens? Perception always wins. And that's what happens with problems. There is no entity called problem. It doesn't exist. You have chosen to perceive a certain situation from a certain angle and you have decided to label it problem. It's your decision. Somebody else is looking at that same situation from another perspective and is seeing that same thing as something else. The guy talking to me turned out to be the VC of the Nigerian National NOU, Open University of Nigeria. It's Professor Sopley. I've forgotten his name. I think I still have his contact on my phone. Where did I stop? Let me now link it to this.
We were talking about where Nest One was pre-COVID and how you were trying to manage it.
Thank you, sir. So, I realize, and that's one of the reasons I studied so many different things, so many different disciplines, instead of digging deep into one. I realized that part of the basic mindset you require to solve problems or to create solutions is to be able to shift from point A to point B and still be looking at the same thing. If I stand here and view this, if I stand here and view this, if I stand here and view this, I have 3 different views. This view I have enables me to put my leg in here. These ones don't enable me, for instance. So, the guy who has this view and who has this perspective suddenly has more leg room. But it is the same structure. This guy has less leg room. This guy has less leg room. This guy has more leg room. Perspective. Positioning. So I'm looking at COVID and I'm thinking to myself, what's going to die? What's going to survive? And a few thoughts come to myself. Again, I'm looking at it like, this is a crisis. Crisis is an opportunity. Where is the opportunity? A few things pop up in my head. People are going to stay home more. People are going to stay away from people more. Private is going to become the big thing. People are going to pay others to do things that they would have normally done themselves, because they want to stay away from people. So, but while they are staying away from people, they are going to be eating more. But when you are at home, you eat more, that's why you have it. So a few things suddenly jump up out at you. Agriculture, logistics, what's that term? There's a term I'm looking for when you have a man Friday. Man Friday who does everything for you. There's that English term. English is not my mother tongue, so forgive me. These are industries that will thrive. Food, the delivery of food, technology, the things that enable you to communicate without moving. So MTN is going to get more valuable because people will talk more on the phone. Zoom, as you already know, is already hitting the stratosphere. WhatsApp is going to get so much more traffic. Cargill, the agri-companies of this world, their valuation is going to explode. So I said to myself, I asked myself, where do you position your innovation hub to take advantage of this future press? We came to a few things. Number one was we agreed to put a concentration on agriculture. So one of the things we've done is we are in the process of creating an agro-innovation hub within this building. And the agro-innovation hub is simply this. You want to do processing, you want to do food processing. Let's say you want to do pound yam. What process do you go through? You go source the yam, you go source the machines, you process the yam, you package it, you go to NAFDAC, get your certification, then you start going to sellers, to stores, and you start having meetings. You go to Sahad, you go to Next, you go to ShopRite, you have meetings with them and you ask them to place your products in their stores. Our Agro Hub will take all of that off you. So all you need to do is you give us the brand that you want. We do the processing for you. We do the NAFDAC certification for you. We do the packaging for you. We do the placements in stores for you. Whether those stores are in Nigeria, Europe, America, Asia, anywhere, we do the placements for you. That's one. Another thing that we've decided to focus on is things that we own. Things that you know that nobody can be better at being you than you. I'll give you an example. Nobody can cook jollof rice better than you. Nobody. The American cannot cook jollof rice better than you. I'll tell you a story to communicate what I mean. I was in school, and a guy called General Peter Pace, he was then Chairman Joint Chief of Staff. He's the most powerful soldier in the world at that point. He came to give a lecture in my school. And, you know, big man will come give lecture. After the lecture, everybody lined up. There were like 200 students lined up to shake his hands. You know, the guy wanted to get going now, so he'd be shaking hands here, talking to somebody here, and shaking hands here. And I'm looking at myself, I said, why am I standing in this line if I'm just going to have 1 second with this guy? How am I wasting my time standing in this line? How do I make myself memorable when I reach to where he is? And I finally get there. And I still haven't found a strategy to make myself memorable. And as I was still dwelling in my thoughts, okay, what do I do? What don't I do? General Peter Pace made a mistake. He looked away. I was here, he was shaking me here. And he looked away and he was talking to the professor that invited him. And Mio, I don't care who you are, if you're not looking at me when you're shaking my hand, I will call your attention to it. So he shakes me, you know, releases the grip, which means time for me to let go, and I refuse to let go. So he turns from his talk, looks at me, smiles at me, nods, and releases again. And again, I refuse to let go. I've been emboldened at that point. I refuse to let go. So he's looking at me, I'm looking at him. All this in the space of 1-2 seconds. By then, people know there's something happening. And then I start to lean towards him. I see his bodyguards move. I see his left hand from the corner of my eye. It goes up like this. It just goes up like this, like as if, stop. I can deal with this. I think he was the first Marine that became Chairman Joint Chief of Staff, so probably trying to show them that he can deal with this nigga. So I lean up into his ear. He's a tall guy, maybe 6'2". As I'm leaning up, I'm pulling him down a bit because I still have his hands. I'm pulling him down a bit, and I'm leaning up into his ear. And I go to his ear and I whisper, I say, I have never seen so much power deployed with so much humility. Sir! And he throws his head back and laughs. And he says, thank you. Finishes shaking me, pumps my hand. As I move to continue, he pulls me with his left hand. I basically stand beside him, he's holding me, shakes every other person. Turns to the professor and says, you say you have dinner for me today, Abi? I say, the professor says yes. He says, my new friend must come.
Interesting.
That's how I entered dinner. There were 8 people there. I was the 9th person. All the other 8 people you hear about in America. This is the most powerful soldier in America. This is the biggest author. This is secretary of this, which is like minister of something. This were the people running America. And there I was, Nigerian boy, in school, a student. Everything just a fly on top of my head. Piano. Discussion, 1 hour passed. I didn't find a single word to say. I will open my mouth to talk, I don't know what to say. And then I ask myself, wait, I go to. Then they start this argument. It's about something happening in the political space in America then. And there were 2 schools of thought. This side says they want to do it like this. This side says, no, you should do it like this. And I said, my opportunity. They had reached a deadlock. And I raised my voice. First of all, I raised my hand. Nobody even noticed me. Then I raised my voice. I say in Nigeria we won't do it any of the two ways. General Peter Bay stunned. Looked at me and said, and shushed the other people and said, our Nigerian friend says in Nigeria they won't do it that way. Let's hear him. Do you know that Michael Jordan actually went to a golf course to play Tiger Woods? Yeah. Michael Jordan, basketballer, he went to a golf course to play Tiger Woods. One thing you do not do is you do not stray from your field of competence. You should remain. You should choose where you are strongest and you should play them. Enter there and play. So I dragged them. But I didn't drag it out of the blues. I entered a conversation they were having and I dragged them to where I was strongest. Nigeria. Now when I start to talk about Nigeria, how do you want to challenge me? You can't challenge me. I'm the resident expert. I'm the authority. And they listened to me for the next 10 minutes. And boy, I spun them a story. I spun them a story. So, what you need to do, what we need to do, is to take those little things, know where your strength lies, see the opportunity in the crisis, determine how and where you're going to play, execute. We have determined where we're going to play at Nest One, for instance. We're in the execution process now. The jury is still out as to whether I'll be successful. But I've rolled the dice. I've done my play. You need to do yours. Nigeria, I know everybody, well, not everybody. Most people want to leave this country. Most people see this country as, you know, what did Donald Trump call us? Shithole. Yeah. Most people see this country as a shithole. One of the most interesting guys I've ever met is a guy who calls himself Otumba Gaddafi. Otumba Gaddafi is he's late now, 6 feet 6 inches tall. He's a giant. He walks into a room, his broad shoulders like that. The first time I met him, I thought they had sent him to assassinate me. I was to interview him for something, and this guy bends down, walks into a room, and I'm staring at him. He used to be MK Abiola's. He was MK Abiola's bodyguard. But he walks into a room and he tells you, my name is Otumba, and he has a deep voice. He said, my name is Otumba Gaddafi. I sell shit for a living. I sell shit for a living. And that's what he did. Otumba Gaddafi was the one who introduced mobile toilets to Nigeria. From introducing mobile toilets, he met prime ministers, he met the Prime Minister of the UK, he met the Secretary General of the UN. If you went to Lagos that time, you see big billboards around town where he says shit business is big business. That's Otumba Gaddafi. Why did I remember shit? Because if Trump calls you a shithole, it's not time to get out of the shithole, it's time to get into the shit business. And those are the small things that drive outcomes. I'll end with something. I'll end with a small story. And it's a story that speaks about perspectives and how our reactions determine our outcomes. The story speaks to a young 12-year-old boy. He's a bright-eyed kid. Smart as an Alec. He'd been hearing the story of this guy, this old man who lived in the outskirts of the village. He lived alone. And the guy had a reputation. He had never been wrong. Never. And this smart Alec boy decided that he was going to break that record. So he walks up to the man's cottage outside of town with his hands clasped behind his back. He hails the man. Say, "Oh, wise one, I've come to seek your audience." The wise one comes and says, "What can I do for you, young soul?" And the boy with his hands claps behind his back, says, "In my hands I have a sparrow. Tell me, is it dead or alive?" His intention was that if the old man says dead, he will release the bird, and the bird will fly free. If the old man says alive, he will break the bird's neck. That was his plan. The old man looks at him, 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 looks at him. As he's looking at him, time is passing. The small boy is very happy to say, "You don't jump. Let me take here. You don't jump." And finally the old man clears his voice and says, "Oh young soul, the destiny of the sparrow is in your hands. The outcome of your lives, the outcome of this country, it's not in the hands of the politicians. It's in our hands." Thank you. Is there a question and answer session, and am I supposed to stand here, or can I sit down?
Thank you very much, sir. That was awesome. A round of applause, please. It's not every day you hear things like this, and I'm very certain that every one of us here benefited from something. And definitely I learned something, and that is, wherever you go, wherever you are, learn to leave your mark. Because when you do, the world will be full of amazements. If everybody learns to leave their marks. All right, now it's question and answer. Okay, and I don't know, please, if what we're typing in on our phones are not what we learned, or the question we want to ask, or the answer I want to give to the question that will be asked, can we kindly stop typing, please? Thank you. All right, now we're going to be asking questions to the speaker, and please, we know that we want to ventilate, so we are angry. Yes, we are trying. The youth, we are trying, but they are frustrating us. You want to say something? Let's all be censored, well censored. Say what you want to say, address the situation, not the person. All right? So if you have your question, please identify yourself, direct it to the speaker, and also to our guest here, Honorable Cornelia Jim, and your questions will be answered, I believe, and I dare say, correctly. Questions, please.
Virtually, that is. One of them was like, he disagrees and wants you to shed light on something. So it was like, he disagrees with the view that a problem simply being an illusion. He believes there are some factors that are so realistic that simply believing it, you have to read this. I don't get you already, please. Thank you.
He disagrees with the view that a problem simply being, he disagrees with the view that the problem is just an illusion. There are some factors that are so realistic that simply believing it to be an illusion doesn't help. That's one of the persons that asked the question. Another person said, with the example of the fever issue analogy you gave, he said the fever reacts to a problem. He said, how about the process of preventing the problem in the first place? Thank you, sir.
So please, how would you like your questions? All of them to give it. Okay, yes, just ask your questions.
Right. Thank you very much. First and foremost, let me appreciate the speaker. It's an honor and a privilege to hear from a resource person like this. My name is Olasuko Mesisero. I appreciate the lecture so far. But mine is not really a question just to add to what our speaker have said, but a question can come up in between. I believe in this country. I'm a proud Nigerian. I just want to buttress this down to the last statement that the destiny of this country lies in our hand. But the outcome of your life and this country lies in your hand. Just like what Shakespeare did, I want to react to that issue of that fever. In the book of Shakespeare, he said, there's neither good or bad. It is your perception that makes it so. I didn't want to ask before, but because of that, when I read that question, whatever we have, whatever we call Nigeria today, it is what we want it to make it be. That is the truth. Thank you.
Excuse me, please. I have a question.
Questions only, please. Questions only, please. Thank you. Questions.
Okay, so my question is, when we're talking about seizing the opportunity and how, there's something that you can do, for instance, taking or maybe starting something that you can, and you mentioned the logistics business. Just yesterday, and I know a couple of people who had decided to take up, doing delivery and all of that, and just yesterday we had an issue in Lagos where, some of these SMEs are being stopped and charged for so many things by LASMA. You have so many people charging you for just incessant charges. Now, what do you do about that? Because there are lots of times when these things we say are actually ideal, that, I have the power to change my life, or, it's not in the hands of politicians. They're actually ideal, but that's not the reality of what we're facing. So how do you deal with that? Because living in Nigeria is very, very hard. So what's the solution?
Okay, just an addition to her own question, I was about to ask some question. When the convener of this program was speaking, he made mention of the fact that the destiny of this country lies in our hand, the youth. I disagree with that. Our leaders has a role to play, but they're not doing that. They are making this country more difficult for us. They are making things harder and harder for us. In fact, it appears that once they see us having respite or having an escapist route, they take necessary measures to close it up. It's as if we are locked up in a room where we can't even get a kind of air. And once we try to have an opening, they take the fastest step to close it up. I saw something this morning, I almost shed tears. Coming from NIPOST. NIPOST has failed. I'm coming. NIPOST has failed. Even agencies like Corporate Affairs Commission prefer to use FedEx and what is the name of this courier services? DHL to courier documents than using NIPOST. Government agencies don't even use them, because you will send documents to NIPOST, it will take a week for them to take documents from Abuja to Anambra State. Sometimes you come back, they will tell you stories about that document. Now, people has felt that, just like the speaker said, people feel comfortable staying in their house, ordering food from restaurant to their house. Some people that run restaurant business have discovered that there are so many persons that would like to patronize them, but would not like to come there and sit down and eat. They devised a means of having their own private courier services. Now, NIPOST, I saw something this morning where NIPOST has provided a directive that they will license people doing courier services. I have a friend, a young person like me, that finished youth service this year. The money he gathered from his services, from youth service, he bought 3 bikes. He wants to start career services in Abuja here. He's a young person. Now, NIPOS come up with a directive that they're going to charge 20 million naira if you want to do career services for license. International 20 million, national 10 million, regional 5 million, state 2 million, municipal 1 million, special SME 250,000 for license in this country. I disagree with the fact that destiny solely lies in our own hands. Government has a lot of road to pay, for God's sake, and they have failed. Let's acknowledge that fact, please.
Please, your name before your question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. It's evening. Good evening, everyone. And to the speaker, thank you so much, sir. I had the privilege to read your profile online, and I knew that it would be a very good place for me to ask this question. So my name is Gideon Olariwaju. I'm an educational development practitioner, doing my PhD in McGill University. I've dedicated the last 7 years designing innovative solutions to educational challenges in Nigeria. And as a non-profit leader, I think that the issue we have with school closures and educational disruption in terms of this COVID-19 pandemic is really enormous. From your profile, I've seen you've done really amazing, innovative solutions in the past. So I want to ask you, as a development professional and consultant, that what do you think is the most appropriate measure that the government can take in this point in time to ensure large-scale solutions to ensuring that learning never stops? Now, the problem that I've seen, this is more like a perspective just to emphasize the need for us to have professionals like yourself, share opinions based on your perspective from outside the country, is that I've seen repeatedly that the proliferation of solutions being launched by state governments or regional bodies are ineffective. Distance learning measures have been propagated as the solution, but you begin to wonder that from the cost of data to the level of internet penetration to household costs, people do not have the means. How do we ensure that for as long as the coronavirus pandemic is around and schools are closed, and as children, more than 10 point, not even 10.5, maybe 13.2 or 16.1, we don't even know, are out of school, and the new ones that are out, how can we ensure that they are provided access to quality educational opportunities? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I think it's a great opportunity for me to be part of this session. The question I want to ask, we're talking about the COVID pandemic and all that. The question I'd like the speaker to address is this. Federal government took a decision concerning the COVID-19 that every body should be at home. At some point, they partially opened the economy. But I think there is still a very big problem, because those that have potentials, those that have plans, those things have been outlined for the year, by young people, have been disrupted because of this COVID-19. And we try to see how we can navigate our ways, making sure that we're able to also achieve, if not completely, be able to still maintain track. But the COVID-19 is really, really quite difficult. But what I want the speaker to address is this. The lockdown by the federal government, is it the best decision that can be taken by a government? I'm talking of Nigeria now. Is it the best decision that can be taken by a government? Because the reason I'm asking this question is because sometime a friend or a neighbor rather complained about a child being abused. And when I looked at that situation, I thought within myself that I would rather have COVID-19 than have my baby. I have 3 kids, 3 girls, okay? Probably that's why I felt the way I felt then anyway. I was like, I would rather have COVID-19 than have my little girl, or one of my little girl, been molested by one, permit my language now, a fool or an idiot. You understand what I'm saying now? Sorry, you understand what I'm saying now? So, is it the best decision that the government or the government can take in this area of pandemic? Some of us have got programs, and this pandemic has impeded our journey to achieving those things that we outlined for the year. For example, you're looking at your little kid and you can't provide something for your little kid. You got the expert, you had everything that it takes to provide for your family. But because of the COVID-19, you cannot provide for your children. And you see your children asking you for snacks and you cannot provide for them. And it's hurting. So I really don't know how the speaker can really help to ease our mind concerning the way we feel about this COVID-19 thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions, please?
Thank you very much for your sorry, I want to ask one question. When the speaker walked in here, he said something very profound, that he has 5 codes that rules his life. And in the course of his discussion, he only mentioned one. I would love to know if you could share with us what the other 4 are. Number 1, I just have 2 questions. My second question is this. This is my first time coming to Nest One Hub, and while I walked in here, I could see that there's a difference. I've been to several hubs before, but there's a difference about this place. It's quintessential, and this is quite personal. But I want to know, I don't know what did the founder have in mind? You're talking about perspective. What kind of perspective did you have in mind to bring about this? If someone wants to walk in those shoes or follow your footsteps, what kind of perspective should that kind of person have? So that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I would add, since we're doing the policy roundtable, I'm going to support my friend that just spoke, Mr. Emmanuel, that talked about how it's not entirely in the hand of the youth for the good of Nigeria to rise again, because some policies seem to be unfair. And it looks like every other time any person, youth, any citizen of Nigeria starts to do something that is very lucrative, the government wants to take into it. And it's frustrating, judging to the fact that you're starting is the startup. So you need encouragement, not somebody trying to pull you down. So I'm sharing that view as my own question. So, thank you very much. Well, I see the door is closed, Mr. Awesome. All right, your question then.
Did you say you shared your view as a question?
I'm sharing I'm agreeing with his question to the fact that the policies are not fair enough in Nigeria. Mr. Awesome, your question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Emeka, for all you said. And this is really a great platform, and my name is Victor Awesome Ojai. So I know you work in some economic development space, and I was just wondering, even though you didn't allude to a lot of economics in your speech, I was just wondering what your perspectives would be in terms of the sovereign debt landscape, especially in Africa post-COVID, and if what solutions do you think young people can bring to the table in terms of restructuring if we are going to go that route? Nigerian sovereign debt, and shall I even say, most of African sovereign debts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That'll be the end. Thank you.
To take the questions in any particular order. The other quotes, somebody else, was it you said? Okay. Never let a serious crisis go to waste. And they who were seen dancing were thought to be mad by they who could not hear the music. and they who were seen dancing were thought to be mad by they who could not hear the music. The reasonable man adapts himself to society. The unreasonable man seeks to adapt society to himself. Therefore, all progress is due to the unreasonable man. If you will not be forgotten, once dead, write something worth reading or do something worth writing. I'll save the 50.
Sir, can you repeat the last one?
If you will not be forgotten, once dead,
Yes.
write something worth reading or do something worth writing. You asked another question. What was in my mind when I started?
Yeah, what the perspective towards all this, because I wanted to know your perspective, your mindset towards all this, because this seems to be different than from the other innovation hubs I've been to.
Nigeria is known for about 5 things on earth. Nigeria is generally known for about 5 things on earth. Fraud, corruption, that's our brand. Rightly or wrongly, that's our brand on earth. Fraud, corruption, Nollywood, Brent crude oil, football. Did I miss any? Oh, the biggest churches on earth. That's what we're known for. In my personal opinion, the only positive one there is football. That's my personal opinion. And so when I was creating here, my goal was very simple. My goal was to export Nigeria. I don't think that running an international advertising project like we did some years ago under one of our very capable ministers, I don't think that running an international rebranding project, I don't think it makes sense. I think it was money down the drain. You do not rebrand a bad brand. You know, a brand is bad, a brand is bad. In fact, trying to rebrand a bad brand actually makes the brand worse, because you are then exposing. If you advertise a bad product, guess what happens? People find out it's bad. Then the reverse starts to happen. Reverse word of mouth. People start to talk to others and say, I will never use that product. Don't go near there. That's what happens. But if nobody knew of your product, or very few people know of it, it's better. What you now have is negative feedback. People are saying, we will never come to you. So I want to, the whole idea of Nest One is to take Nigeria to the world. Like I always say, can we make the best button? Something as simple as button. Can we make the best zippers? Yeah, you know, something that, just press it for them, please. No, the button. Okay, fine. Sorry about that. Can we make the best anything, no matter how small, but can we be the best in a product category on earth? Can a made in Nigeria product sit on a shelf in Walmart in America, and an American will walk into that Walmart and buy the made in Nigeria because it's the best product there? Can a made in Nigeria product sit on the store shelf in Singapore, and a Singaporean will walk into that store and buy the made in Nigeria product, leave the made in Singapore product, just because the made in Nigeria product beats the made in Singapore product? Doesn't matter what it is. It can be thread. Oh, doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter. It can be ink. That's why in the beginning, or as part of my talk, I said, you must own what is yours. You must enter into your field of play and play. You cannot be Michael Jordan basketball and entering into Tiger Woods. field of play. You must enter into your field of play and play. So as Nigerians, we must choose our field of play. The one you can't beat us in, we must step back into there and project it. That's why you see a lot of art and culture here. You can't beat us in art, you can't beat us in culture. It's our art, it's our culture. So we're going to export our art, we're going to export our culture. You can't beat us. You can't. You cannot make better jollof rice than me now. It's not possible. You can't beat being me. In being me, I'm number one. It's not possible that you can beat being me. And so, that's. There's something called the theory of the first principle. The theory of the first principle simply means if you can get your first principle right, if you can get that core thing right, every other thing revolves around it. For us here, the core thing is that we must sell Nigeria to the world by taking our products out there, high quality products, developing and taking them out there. But what's the first principle there? The first principle there is that we must choose the products and the services in which we have comparative and competitive advantage. So will I play the tech game with you? Hell no. You'll beat me there. I ain't playing the tech game with you. Oh, tech sounds all sexy, but I will not play that game with you. Those that are playing it can play it. By the way, there are two sides of tech. There's the creating new tech side, and there's the applying existing tech type. Applying existing tech is open territory, because your problems are your problems, and your problems are unique, your problems are local. So you can take existing tech, apply them to your existing problems, and you've created a new app to do that. But to create new technology is a race you will lose. You're coming from this part of the world, so I'm not interested in that race. And Nest One is not interested in that race. Sovereign debt landscape. You asked that, sir? I might not understand your question, but I will attempt to answer what I understand. Formal government. It is formal government that takes on sovereign, on what is called sovereign debt. Yeah? So, what you're saying now is that I should advise government. Because it is the complete purview of government. No matter what we say here, it really doesn't matter. I should advise government, or if I were government, what would I do?
Or because one of the focal points you made was that our destiny lies in our hands as we people from this country. So I'm thinking, in your own opinion, what do you think, or how do you think we can come into the governmental space for our debts? Because we do know that government is formally constituted as people we vote in, and also informally as a social structure of the country. We, all of us, make up the government. So how do you think young people can step in? Because at the end of the day, our debts, the country's debts would fall on us. There's a research that says that Generation Z would have to suffer most of the economic crisis of COVID. And I know that...
Let me try and put it in a black and white way. Guy, it don't say my future in my hand. But these people don't sell my future videos. Give me that until they talk. Yeah. That's what you're asking me. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. And do I have an answer to that? No, I don't. But I'll tell you what I think. I have nothing against debts. I have something against debt that is taken to finance recurrent expenditure, or debt that is taken to line people's pockets. If debt is taken to execute capital projects, capital projects are supposed to yield over time. That would then be a good debt taken. Let's localize in Nigeria. So Nigeria has taken plenty debt, which we have to pay, especially in the last few years. We had a president previously who cleared our national debt. And, since then, the presidents after him have been racking it up. Sorry. Have they used the debt that they've racked up so far? Have they used it as judiciously as it could have been used? I think that the majority of Nigerians would answer no to that. And I am part of that majority of Nigerians. What could we have done differently? Nigeria currently is a space where, you go to vote because somebody will say, vote. But you go to vote, and sadly, some of the time or a lot of the time, your vote does not count, and that's the truth. Or your vote is repressed because maybe they don't allow you to get to the voting station, the voting booth, because they're shooting there. And they're shooting there so that you don't get there, because they know how you're going to vote, or they suspect how you're going to vote. But every problem is an opportunity. Every crisis you can turn into something good. What good can come out of this? I think that that's part of the questions that the Policy Roundtable is trying to answer. I am away from talking to Bumi and his team that getting that, I think you call them Generation XYZ. Generation XYZ, rightly or wrongly, because of what they have seen, what they have experienced, have chosen to alienate themselves from government. And there's plenty of justification for it. But I think Bumi and team are asking the question, is that the right thing to do? Yes, there's justification for it, but is it the right thing to do? Do you have an answer to this question? Is it the right thing to do? Should generation... Sorry?
It's tantamount to shooting ourselves in the foot. It's wrong.
He said it's tantamount to shooting ourselves in the foot, and I totally agree with you. We must get more involved. That is the solution. It may sound like a broken record, but it comes down to that. We must get more involved. We must let our voices be heard. And in letting our voices be heard, it's not about mounting off, really. It's not about mounting off. It's about organizing. It's not the only way, but it's the best way. It's the best route available to us. Because when you organize, you make your voice louder, you make your voice more heard, and you become more powerful. Take the picture back to the broom. One is easily broken. The punch is seldom broken. And I am not an APC member. Is COVID shutdown the best decision taken by government, Mr. Nencha?
Yes, sir.
Something about this COVID is that even those that claim to know don't know. Nobody knows. I don't think anybody can answer your question. Personal opinion. I don't think anybody can answer your question. But I will make an attempt to give you my ideas around it. I don't know how many people hunger and allied diseases, hunger-related diseases, kill in Nigeria. But I'm sure there are quite a bunch. hunger-related diseases. I have 10 minutes left. Now, if you check that number, and you check the number that COVID is going to kill, if hunger and allied diseases kill 10 people and COVID is killing 2, then, the answer to the question is obvious. Hunger is a bigger killer than COVID, the same way mosquitoes are bigger killers than elephants. So hunger is a bigger killer than COVID, so we should fear hunger more than we should fear COVID. So the lockdown doesn't make sense. But I don't have those numbers. If it's the other way around, but I suspect that hunger in Nigeria is a bigger killer than COVID. I might be wrong, but that's what I suspect. And if that is true, then the lockdown is not exactly the way forward. I suspect that over time that a lot of us would acquire herd immunity. I suspect that over time, that we may not see a post-COVID era in the next many years. I suspect that this guy will be around with us for quite some time, and I suspect that some of these habits that we're acquiring, some of these new cultures and behaviors that we're acquiring now would carry on for some time. So we will keep social distance and we'll keep 1 meter apart. This handshake has come to stay. It's not going anywhere. So I think. Someone says it disagrees that problem is not an illusion. That's fine. Feel free to disagree. Make your problem a solid problem. So I will not respond to that. Fever reacts to problem. What's this? How about stopping? Oh, it says so the second person says fever is a reaction to a problem. How about stopping the problem from coming instead? Of course, we can deal with this theoretically. Of course, you can stop a problem from coming if you know that the problem exists and if you know that it's heading your way. If you don't know, you can stop it. And the only 2 ways to know of the existence of a problem. One is by personal experience, which means you would have to encounter the problem. And by the time you encounter the problem, you've already met it. Right? And the second way is through another person's experience. Those are the only 2 ways to know that this could be a problem and that it is coming your way. That said, our path of growth is the solving of problems. The way you grow as a human being is to solve problems. Show me somebody who avoids problems and I will show you somebody who is not going anywhere. Bumi and team have identified a problem and they decided to embrace it and own it and try and solve it in their own way. That's the way of growth. There's no other path. So, if you encounter the same problem multiple times, then you're not a learner. If you encounter it 1, 2 times and you solve it and you move on, kudos, way to go. How do you deal with difficulties of living in Nigeria? Who has that? How do you deal with, was it an online question? How do you deal with the difficulties of living in Nigeria?
It was just a statement saying living in Nigeria.
Okay. It's what it is. I want us to note that the era that has created the world's highest number of millionaires was World War II. So, back to that thing, back to that saying, every crisis is an opportunity. Why would World War II create the highest number of millionaires the world has ever seen? Why? It's wartime now. But it created people like Honda, Soichiro Honda, who started Honda Motor Vehicle by taking scrap from metal bombs that were thrown to kill him. After the bomb go off, he go take the metal, go build motorcycle. Honda. I'm sure somebody here owns a Honda car. That's how he started. So it's still the same thing. It's still about the mindset. It's still about the way of looking at things and saying, yes, so this may be happening, or there may be these difficulties, but this is how I've chosen to look at it. Gideon, what's the appropriate measure? How do we get children? I think your question was around, in this COVID era, how do we get our education right? My brother, very difficult. How do you deal? How do you deal? You say you're going online. How many people have access to online facilities? So it's back to the question that Mr. Enenche asked. Is shut down really the way forward? Do our realities support shutdown? How many primary school students are there in Nigeria? What percentage of them have access to? I mean, the elites, we are the elite and we're living in a bubble. Go to the villages. People don't know what internet is. You're talking of you come and do online school. Somebody was telling me yesterday, that this thing has taught us so much, that it has taught us that most jobs can be migrated online. I'm looking at it like, which bubble are you living in? Most jobs can be migrated online. Go to your village and tell them that, okay, if there are 100,000 jobs in your village, tell me how many can be migrated online. You're living in Abuja in your bubble, and you say, we've learned that most jobs can be migrated online. You don't live in the UK. Excuse me? You live in Nigeria. This is our own reality. And you have to deal with your reality in your own space and your own locality. So my brother, I don't know. Because that online thing is not going to work in Nigeria. At least for now. That's where we are. It's not going to work. We're just going to have a huge education gap. So I don't know. Let's keep thinking about it. Let's keep talking.
Can I react to that, sir?
Yes, of course.
Awesome. So I think I asked the question from the perspective of you being a development consultant. You've seen online, you work with the World Bank and all of that. From my understanding of working in the space, I understand the space of policy transfer. How you can adopt working strategies, particularly in spaces where they've designed some interventions that have worked. Your award, GSMA, I know so much about it, and I know it's about leveraging on mobile simplistic technologies, and currently there are plans to ensure we can leverage on short, low-cost mobile technology that allow children to learn even without data or internet connectivity.
So you are just setting me up?
I'm not setting you up, sir. I'm only just thinking that sometimes validation comes. For me, it's very conversant with my craft of what I've done, represent Nigerian spaces, and we still struggle to get the idea before people. I know this is being broadcasted online. I'm only hoping your perspective, being a professional, you can not in some way validate or share your perspective on what you think should work. Because I think it is troubling for many of us who have spent time, being passionate about the system and then saying, and we having the responses or solutions, but then the system is not supportive. So I won the Achievement Scholarship to do my master's in the UK, and I felt I was connected. So when the COVID pandemic started, I started working on how learners in rural communities could get access to some facilities that is entirely offline, and I began to send emails. I did not get any response. So I was thinking sometimes it's about the function of access, and for many people like yourself who are within the system, perhaps when you voice out based on experience, exposure, and the kind of things you've done in the past, perhaps people will listen and create the facility to ensure that youth-led innovation can be embraced. Because to be honest, it seems that the government is clueless, and I'm not apologetic for that. And there needs to be accommodation of ideas from young individuals, and not just those who are connected, not just the generation of the softcom and the connected development, but individuals who have over time proven themselves in terms of what they have done, even with limited resources. Give the space and let people come forward with solutions. When they have it, let them do it. So I'm only asking because I believe that because of your experience, there are some things you might know. Because if we just decide to overlook it, I believe that education is at the center of it all, and we need to do something.
So can I suggest something?
Yes, sir.
So that we're not... I don't like talking, which is part of the reason when I created a hub many hubs talk, not all of them. There are some hubs that are doing great work, but many are just talk shops. They are places where people come to talk and go away feeling good. Many hubs are talk shops and meeting rooms, that's all there. So can we do something different with this? So this is the policy roundtable, the policy roundtable. You have picked a topic that is very central to where we currently are as a country and where we're headed. That's the education space is a very critical space, and we're talking policy here. And you seem to have some great ideas. So why don't we all sit down and do up a white paper, put it in the name of the policy roundtable and push it.
Lobby.
These ideas you're putting forward right now.
I will gladly do that for me. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
One question that you haven't answered. The one I yes, you didn't address our question.
Yes. What was your question?
Which was the very
when I cited night posts, the new policy.
And SMEs are doing what you want to do.
It was a comment.
No, it's
a question. It's a question.
Okay, so what was your question?
Okay.
I guess what I'm trying to ask is, with the barriers to entry for a lot of businesses that are coming up right now, especially within the country, what would be the best process that will help them move forward without so you talked about perception basically, right? And how it's not about the reality, it's about what you perceive reality to be. So with the reality being that there's a lot of barrier to entry for a lot of these SMEs to be able to start up and get their business going, how do they come to terms with the reality, with the perception that they have? I think that's basically what they're trying to say.
So let me try to use an example. So some people organize themselves, created a hailing, an Okada hailing business in Lagos. And government wakes up, decides to slap a heavy tax on them, and they go poof. How do you stop that from happening?
How do you adapt to that?
Would that capture the spirit of?
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfair policies, crazy policies.
Okay. It's a difficult thing. It's a very, very difficult thing. I say there are a few approaches to it. Number one is how many people know Chimamanda? How many people think that there's a government policy that could have stopped her from writing? How many people know Mikel Obi, the footballer? How many people think that there's a government policy that could have stopped him from playing good football? How many people know Pete Edochie? How many people think that there's a government policy that could have stopped him from acting good? First approach is that in approaching enterprises, this is something I do. In approaching enterprises, I do a risk analysis of government risk analysis, because government can be an ass. Is this online? Sorry, you didn't hear that. You know, government can be an obstacle. So, the first, I always ask myself, is there a way to avoid government obstacles? Is there a way, can I get into a space where even if government decides to be an obstacle, it will be difficult for them to achieve it, at least very quickly? That's the first thing. And then the second thing is, after you've passed that, if you cannot do that, if you cannot buffer yourself in that way, and you have to actually then step into a space where I would say you have to build the alliances that can deliver. I'll give you an example. I know someone who went about building his enterprise by partnering with I wouldn't name the international organization that he partnered with, but he structured it in such a way that this international organization wanted to get involved in it, and there was this partnering. So even when if government decided to come against it, they will also be coming against this international organization, which you know, when they think potential collateral damage, they back out. That's on the one side. On the third side, again, is back to the question. What's your name, sir?
Victor.
Back to the question Victor asked and the answer I gave. We need to organize. We need to organize, and we need to keep organizing. So there are all kinds of taxations that government come up with. There was a time they were trying to come up with TV taxation. So you're in your house. They will come into your house and count the number of TVs in your house. And then you pay a tax for each TV set in your house. If you have 12, you pay more than those that have 6. Then if you have 6, you pay more than those that have 1 or 2. In this Abuja, a few years ago. I'm not talking of 10 years ago, I'm talking of like the last 5 years. This was actually good there, and I think they said the law exists, is just to find a way to implement it. So we have to organize, we have to resist. We have to organize, we have to resist. And we all cannot stay away from government. The price we pay for staying away from government, the price we pay as a citizen or as citizens is too expensive. You're literally paying with your life. So if we can get the more good people we can get into government, and the more of like minds that get into government, then the easier and the faster we can change government. And make no mistake about it, government is big in this part of the world. There are places where the private sector is huge. Government is massive here. They are the huge elephant in the room. It's either you're going to learn to avoid them, or you're going to learn to tackle them, or you're going to learn to enter them and control the damn elephant. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you, sir, for answering our questions. So apparently, it's almost going to seem like the citizens of Nigeria would have to live like an naked bird that said that since hunters have learned to shoot without missing their aims, that he will learn to fly without perching on a twig. So let's do our possible best and still remember to leave your mark wherever you find yourself, and let's watch Nigeria be a place full of amazement. Thank you very much. A round of applause for us. Thank you very much. All right. I hope we had learned, and we have some things that we're taking home with. And before we finally get to close the session, the convener would give his closing address, to which would move to the tour of Nest One Creative Hub. Thank you very much.
I'd really briefly want to thank everyone, and majorly the over 100 persons at the last count that have joined us virtually, and the team in Bradford led by Tammy, and in Germany, Ahmed. I believe we all have seen the cesspool of impunity that we found ourselves as a people, as a generation, and the need to find an escape route, not traveling out of the country, that is, and fix same. I really thank everyone for coming. On behalf of the team, we really love that you're present physically. God bless you. And while we are done, I'd like to inform us that we have the former Commissioner of Arts and Culture in Cross River State, Honorable Cornel Agim with us. He's an art curator, he's a filmmaker, and a director of licensing, or former director of licensing department in the. That name is too long, but let me just tell you what they do there. You know, when we find that probably Fowl's video has been pulled down from the internet, or when you find that some lewd video has been pulled down, is in charge. So if you have the anger, you can channel the dream, and these are you channel the dream. You forward your opinions, and I would like to add that the major tourist centers that we have currently in Calabar, I don't know, the Obuju of this world and the rest of them, the Calabar Carnival, he, in tandem with the governor, pioneered it. So it's not just. So he will be taking us through, he's an art curator, so he'll be taking us through the art gallery, and so we can ask questions. There will be a program next month. He'll be telling us about it while we are on the tour, and we can actually ask him any questions. Thank you, and God bless you all.
I keep coming back here, right? I think don't worry, this is the last time. I won't come back again. Okay, before I finally leave, I would do something I said I was definitely going to do today, and it's to read the entire quote of Chinua Achebe on something that I love. He said, "Being in Nigeria is abysmally frustrating and unbelievably exciting. I have said somewhere that in my next reincarnation, I would want to be a Nigerian again. But I have also, in a rather angry book called The Trouble with Nigeria, dismissed Nigeria travel advertisement with suggestion that only a tourist with a kinky addiction to self-flagellation would pick Nigeria for a holiday. And I mean both." Chinua Achebe. All right, let's rise for the second stanza of our national anthem, please. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
To the enjoyment of the human. What we intend here, this man in Africa is called the living child. It's really vexed with a lot of things happening to female creatures. He's being portrayed as a living child because he knows that a lot of these people are being humanized. And this rapists most times go into the homes of the people who know them. Okay, you can see that most of the newspaper cuttings today, you see the rapists are either the uncles, the nephews. There was one recently that his uncle was carrying a very small girl of 10 years, devoured her, and he gets so close to them, and she's weeping because no matter how close you are to these people, you don't underestimate them. Because they can turn around and do anything you want to do. So it teaches us that you have to be very careful with those people, even indoors. Those are your uncles that are staying with you in your house. You have to be very careful with them. Don't allow your kid free with those people who get so close to your kids. Let's move. I knew Madam, this work speaks volumes. And see, there's so much hard on it because she'll be humanized. Most times when you humanize it, feel you up, don't allow you to talk, because you cannot even talk for fear of stigmatization. Okay? Shall I let any man to come strip me off? It's not my consent. You can't try me. If you come try me, I'll really get you off. She's saying that. Here you see a lot of times you think Islam it's a pretext. They will tell you that it was done through concession. It wasn't concession. You can see the male leg there, and she's just, anytime you see a human figure, the mouth pointing down this way, that means it's agonized. But we think it's pleasure, it's agonized. And because this poor woman who has given birth to a child, nurtured this child, and then at the end of the day, they don't even allow the child to grow successfully. There's always somebody out there trying to dehumanize the baby. Even at 3 months old, they do it. They're going through all in life. They've been brought down to near zero. She's even ashamed of even coming out. Ashamed. The contract to the colors and said, you're going to grow technique just to drive the human existence. And of course, the female body is a beautiful shape. Apparently, you cannot test it. The female homosexual have beautiful shapes. But most times they want to dehumanize that shape. Fashion, beauty quarters, people you can see, how do you call it, Nigerian things online now, maybe something. People just go through it because of the female, whatever they want to have. So, no matter how you want to demonize the female homosexual, she is still vibrant. That's what we're trying to say. Well, we have to give them that purpose, we have to give them that urge to continue in their vibrancy, despite all that so-called men are doing. So that's showing you the vibrancy of the human, the female homosexual, the same regalia, the elegance, different cultures. Because she was stripped here. I don't want to talk into, I'm not creating the technical field, because I want to start saying the technicalities involved in the painting. It will be very academic, so I'm giving you the face value of what the work depicts. Because we want to start differentiating the monochrome and the hue in contrast with the way the man forms. It becomes a different story. But that's a different understanding of the work, in total interpretation of the thematic value. So there are two keywords. Yeah, we can see she's sad. She's sad, absolutely. But they look at the contrast between the two textiles, black and white, coming out in contrast with the African Muslim traditions. This is to really contrast it and make it. You may think and look at the story. And what all what is not throw out.
I beg. So bad to do.
See, lady, she's the radar is after being humanized, the aftermath. Regrets, weeping. Lord, can this be done to me? And of course, beautiful radar is white cancer. At the end of the day, the woman says to herself, she's still a pretty person. No matter how you want to subdue the human dignity of the womanhood, she is still a pretty person, ready to excel in society. And then from now here, you start seeing the buoyancy of the womanhood. Then let's go. basic action. She has been dehumanized, she has been used and abandoned. And the artist is quite you might look at the job for the work, but there is computational color, get that blood effect. The woman is even, let's say, transparency. Most times, we claim that the woman is herself. But it doesn't follow that way. You can even be clothed in that way. But she is saying that you have to be well clothed. And most times, 70% of rape cases end up in murder. You know, they rape them to death. So we're asked to be careful. And of course, lock up yourself. Very protective of themselves. The man should be careful. There's what they call moral restraint. Crying and telling her it's not the end of the world. You can still live. Yeah,
so one else, please. So you have to introduce them officially. So
okay, we'll let you do your introduction. It's good for them.
My name is Nest One Hub Abuja. I'm an artist and the president of Female Artists Association of Nigeria. And this is Ngozi Akonde. She's the VOT secretary, but former chairman. She was in charge before I took over from her. Then we're having an exhibition here. Yes, against violence against women, sexual and gender-based violence. So we're kind of hammering on rape. And these are my works.
Wow. Yeah.
Then her own works.
That's true. That's really
it's really nice meeting you, man. Are we invited? This is so this is a formal invitation to everybody.
On the 6th
of August.
Yeah.
We'll definitely make it.
By 4 o'clock.
There's no problem.
And there's a documentary. She's making a documentary.
Okay.
To be shown downstairs. This is Adora Onyechere. So she has her own NGO, and she does this. She kind of promotes people like us. So she's promoting us now, and she's going to do the kind of the media run of everything. So her documentary will be run.
We'd look forward to meeting you. We'll bring in a contingent.
Yes.
Hope it won't be too much. We'll be here. We'll be here. He is a veteran of the policy. He has a question, by
So first and foremost, I want to say very big well done for this. We've seen lately that the work of social media has really amplified, all of these things you're trying to do. So I want to know if you have any form of partnership with you and women in Nigeria, for example.
Yeah, okay. We do. But if you can help us more.
So so I want to say my own contribution would be that you could do some sort of bringing some of this print and